The biggest one I ever did was when Houston Grand Opera decided to go international in its casting. And we launched our new Houston Grand Opera with Tosca. And at the time it was the best Tosca cast in the world. It was Ingvar Wixell as Scarpia, Éva Marton as Tosca, and Plácido Domingo as Cavallados. And of course my heart was in my throat because that was such a big event. And it was Marton's debut at the company, and it was also coinciding with the introduction of surtitles for the first time. I think for the first time in America, because I think the first people to use surtitles was the Canadian Opera Company. And anyway, this for sure was Houston's first time to do surtitles. And I'll just tell this anecdote, if you'd like.
Yeah.
That you could edit it out. But at the final dress rehearsal, we had a sponsorship from Getty Oil Company, and as a thank you, we had 1,000 employees from Getty Oil in the audience who had never been to an opera before in their life. This is the beginning days of surtitles, when people didn't know when to bring them up, and so if you brought them up at the wrong time, the laugh comes in the wrong place. Also, learning that you read out of one side of the brain, you listen to music out of another side of the brain. So we've got this translation of Tosca coming up, and people are reading it and responding to it like they're in an I Love Lucy sitcom. So when they're saying, give her black eyes or dark eyes or whatever that title was, you know, and not in front of the Madonna, oh, she's so forgiving. They think this cat and mouse game between, and it is charming and it is funny, but when you listen to it with just the music, you smile. But when you're reading those punchlines, they're all going, ha ha ha. And so here's Marton, you know, dealing with her debut. She's singing Tosca. Domingo doesn't come into the final dress rehearsal. We're all there on stage, and there's those surtitles. And at the end of that first scene, when she turns around and she says, but remember, paint her eyes black. The audience screams, bursts into applause, and I'm hanging on this F sharp minor chord, and Éva Marton can't find her pitch for Ma folie agli occhi neri, which is paint her eyes black, but the surtitle had already come up, and she couldn't sing it because she couldn't hear. So she stormed off the stage and she said, either those words or me, you decide. And so suddenly we decided, due to technical difficulties, to discontinue the surtitles at the dress rehearsal. And the next day I remember I had to go there and try to get rid of any words that might provoke a laugh, like una donna gelosa, when the first act, when it says a jealous woman, or when Scarpia, when she kills Scarpia and she says, and killed by a woman. Anything that we thought, if it was read slightly campy, that could get a laugh. And so I think the audience, when they got their first dose of surtitles in Houston, got about a third of the libretto of Tosca, because we were afraid. Also, opening night, since it was her debut, we didn't do the Tosca, we didn't do the surtitles. And on Sunday afternoon, where she had agreed to do the surtitles, she knocked on the door of my dressing room, and I'll never forget this. She comes in and she says, Maestro, don't upset yourself because you have a performance to conduct, but you go tell your boss, who was David Gockley at the time, who's now the general director of San Francisco Opera, you go tell your boss, I hear one laugh, I go off the stage. And I thought she and David had negotiated and settled all of this. She's still in the state. So I went to David and I said, she's really worried. She said if she's threatening, if she hears any laughter, she's walking off the stage. He looked at me, he said, what should I do? I said, I don't know, tell the audience not to laugh. And so he did. He went out on stage, and it was the promotion of the new season. So he's talking about the new season. I don't know what he said. All I know is, usually when Domingo came out, there was applause. After arias, there was applause. There wasn't, you could hear a pin drop until the end of the opera, the end of the act. You know, there was nothing. So at the end of the evening, you know, afternoon, it was a matinee. I said, what did you say to them? And he said, I told them not to laugh. And they didn't. And so that's how surtitles got born. But I tell the story because as surtitles evolved in opera, we would usually assign a musician. We don't translate everything, because once you've heard the translation once, you don't have to see it 50 more times if they're singing the same thing. You don't necessarily have to translate yes or no, you know, things like that. But also there became an art of when to bring the surtitle up. especially in comedies, that the surtitle didn't come up so fast that the audience is laughing before the singer sang the joke. And so it's really become quite sophisticated the way it's done now. But in those early days, it was still a time of exploration.